Wisconsin Broadcasters Association Hall of Famer Bob Berry ruled Milwaukee's airwaves in the 60s and 70s. He spoke with countless musicians and celebrities over the years. Bob collected remarkable recordings of these encounters, which he's now sharing with the public. Here's Bob.
Michael Reagan was the adopted son of Ronald Reagan and his first wife, Jane Wyman. He had a small role in television on Falcon Crest with his mother. Michael grew up in the shadow of his father, President Ronald Reagan, but found his own path in politics. He was a radio host and a public speaker, drawing from personal experiences growing up in a political family. He has promoted the legacy of his father and promoted charitable causes, including the Reagan Legacy Foundation, which benefits children and families in need.
So it's only natural that Michael Reagan should enter show business, considering that his father and mother, Jane Wyman, and siblings, Maureen, Patty, and Ron, have all worked in the limelight. What are your acting aspirations? What would you like to do?
What would I like to do? Well, I told my wife, I said, I like to get paid for the things I've been doing for the past 40 years. I am an act. But I don't know. You know, I enjoy the realm of radio and television and interview-type situations. I've been on, so many times I've been on the other side of the microphone being asked the questions that after 40 years I know the answers. So I figured it was a good time to find out what the questions might be. And like last week, I pinch hit for Michael Jackson, not the one with the glove.
Yeah, right.
Out here in L.A. on the station here, and hosted his show for 4 hours. He was on vacation for a week. And I had such a great day. I think 1 hour I had Charles Kuralt for an hour.
Oh, geez.
To be able to interview him. I mean, it was just, I really enjoyed that end of it. I am looking at some acting possibilities. I go to acting class every Wednesday. So it's not something I'm just trying to fall into. I'm really actively working at, and at the same time, I'm putting together some things with my race boat for this year for fundraising, or for 86.
That's right. You set world records for that 38-foot speedboat.
Yeah, we got about, what do we have? We got 6 world records we've set. Some of them have been broken in the past 3 years, but that's one thing. The biggest thing we've done is we've raised somewhere in the neighborhood of $1 million to $1.5 million for charity. Every time my boat's gone in the water, it's gone to help someone. The dollars we've raised by selling off the mileage and doing the dinners and the luncheons and things of that nature at the other end.
You want to be president someday?
Well, I figure I've got about 14 years to really make that decision whether I'm going to get political. I figure if people say, are you following your father's footsteps? I say, I don't know. I'm not 54 years old yet, because my dad didn't get started until he was 54 as governor of the state of California. So I've got 14 years to make that decision. I tell you, my real decision right now is with my family, and then I go out and I support my father. I think what he's doing is great. You know, he's made our family part of history. We're one of only 40 first families ever in this country, and boy, it's really something when you look at it that way. It's a very small group of people for as many people who have passed this way.
Yeah. Did you ever dream that your dad would be president?
No, I never dreamed. I never dreamed I would have woken up and gone, my gosh. I think I originally started thinking about it when he decided to run for governor of the state of California, and then became governor. Because then I think it's everybody's dream to say, gee whiz, wouldn't it be nice if my dad were president of the United States? And we're talking about the most important position in the world. So I think you do at that point dream about it. Not all your dreams come true, but I happen to have a father who has dreams too, that all of his dreams have come true.
What do you remember most about your dad and your mom, Jane Wyman?
Oh, what do I remember most about? I'll tell you, about my dad is probably the ranching, the building, constantly doing things, building things out at the ranch. The one in Malibu that I basically grew up at, for 20 years he had that ranch. Just building the buildings out there and cutting wood and working with him as a son in that standpoint, helping him cut wood, helping him paint fences. That's what I remember probably most about him. What I remember most about my mother is that at one time she said to me, I build men, I don't build little boys. And that's because I wanted a 10-speed bike. And all my friends had 10-speed bikes, and we lived in Beverly Hills. Why couldn't I have one? And I said, what do you mean? She says, well, if I give you everything you want, and she says, I have the money to do that, Mike. But you're going to be 40 years old, and you're still going to be a little boy. If you go out and you earn it and pay for it yourself, then you're going to be a 40-year-old man. And I think that's what I remember most about hers.
Excellent.
And I haven't liked her since.
Nah.
I said, but I'd rather be a child. I want to try the other side for a while. I've worked long enough. But that's what I remember most about her is the strength from within her to build her family, to do it on their own. And I think that's probably the hardest thing to overcome too in the family, is because everybody feels that, to your parents are Ronald Reagan and Jane Wyman, you got to have it knocked. And when you say, well, you work, they go, oh, they don't like you? You know?
Does your dad ever talk to you about government problems and things? You know, if you're incompetent?
Not really. He talks government 24 hours a day, and when we get together as a family, I've got the grandkids there, so he's usually playing with Cameron or Ashley, and I try and stay away from politics, really, because I feel that's kind of his little vacation, especially when he gets to the ranch. Like, I don't like to talk business 24 hours a day either. I go home and shut off the phones. That's his free time. I might ask a question sometime, just something, whatever, what about South Africa, what about this, or what about, just to get a clear picture. But I figure he knows more information than I'm ever going to have, being in the position that he's in.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel that I really want to give him, let him have some relaxing time.
All the problems with the family straightened out now that we've been reading about for umpteen months.
Oh, I like reading about the new ones. Gosh darn, I tell you, it really got so blown out of whack there, and I can understand how it does too, because the press has a tendency sometimes to count heads, who's where, who's not, and type thing. And this is the first time we've had a first family really that has been grown. Most of the first families always lived in the White House.
Sure, right.
This is the first family where none of us live in the White House, because we all have our own families. We're married, we got kids, whatever it is. And I think the press has had a hard time trying to figure out how does that happen, and the public sometimes too, because what happens, like you take last Thanksgiving, the public sometimes forgets, because I'm married, my wife has family, and in our house, her family is just as important to me as mine is to her. So you've got to share your time. And when you've got a mother, my mother being Jane Wyman, who's not married, it's important for me to spend some of the holiday season with her, some with Colleen's parents, her dad. Her mother passed away a couple years ago, and some with, of course, Dad and Nancy. Unfortunately, the world press is sitting looking at Dad and Nancy's house.
Yeah, right.
Counting heads.
Sure.
And saying there must be something wrong in paradise. Somebody didn't show up. And I'll give you a good for instance. We August 17th, we had a belated birthday party for Nancy up at the ranch, and all of us were there: Maureen and Dennis and Patty and Ron and Doria and Paul and Colleen and I and the kids. 3 days later, the 20th, Dad was in L.A. and was having a dinner reception, not a dinner reception, but a dinner for the family at Century Plaza. Now, only Patty and Ron and Colleen and I, and of course their spouses, Dory and Paul, can make it to the dinner along with the kids. Maureen and Dennis had other things they had to do, but they were at the ranch 3 days earlier. 2 days later, in the news out here in L.A., in one of the papers, it wrote up that there must be a brouhaha within the first family because Maureen Reagan snubbed her dad by not coming to the dinner at the Century Plaza.
Oh, jeez.
And you're going, but you missed one meal. I mean, it gets to a point you say, wait a minute, there are other things I have to do sometimes.
Yeah.
And but somebody from the press sometimes goes out and starts these things, and what happens is, as a family, instead of talking on the phone sometimes, we read the press and tend to believe it.
Sure, I can understand.
And that's what happened before. And as soon as we got together and we closed the 3,000-mile distance and got the press out from between us, everything was fine. But we're going to have problems like anybody else. Unfortunately, when we have problems, it's like having them in a bass drum.
That's for sure. Yeah, no, that's really interesting. It'll straighten it out for a lot of people who wonder about these things. Michael, you sure sound like you have your head on straight, and I'm sure no matter what you do, you're going to be successful.
I do a lot of testing. I go right by you. Evinrude makes my motors down the street.
Oh, yeah.
So I test out there. In fact, I hold the record on the Great Lakes from Chicago to Detroit.
Okay, Michael, best of luck to you, and thanks a lot for talking with us.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
You too. Bye.
Bob Berry.
Thank you for listening to Bob Berry's Unearthed Interviews. Be sure to subscribe and rate our podcast on iTunes or wherever you find your podcasts. You can find all the episodes at wisconsinbroadcastingmuseum.org. Check out Bob Berry's book, Rock and Roll Radio Milwaukee. Book sale proceeds support Angels Kids Fund and Donate Life Wisconsin. The preceding program was made possible by a generous contribution from Terry Vaughn.